So today's presentation is Understanding Female Hormones, Estrogen, Testosterone, and Beyond. Hormones. Something so small can make a big difference in your quality of life. I know when I first learned about hormones back in, I would say, not as well as I should have in school, mostly when I was starting my alternative medicine practice journey. I was amazed when I learned how many different effects and impacts that small hormones have in our body. And while they may, all I knew in school was that neurotransmitters were the signals that happened very quickly in your brain, whereas hormones were slower messengers and slower signalers. But I didn't realize that those slow, steady signals that occur all throughout our body at a cellular level every moment are really what give us our quality of life. So we're going to talk about a couple hormones today, but we talked about how they're chemical messengers and they are made by different glands, the adrenal glands, the ovaries, the thyroid, other endocrine glands in our bodies. Obviously, we're talking more about women today. The ovaries and the adrenals are the primary production sources of our sex hormones and the hormones that we find most abundantly valuable in our testing with our patients. They command hundreds and hundreds of actions in our body and in our cells that we'll talk about how they are not only beneficial, helpful, promoting wellness in our brains, our heart, our bones, our joints, and our breasts to promote the health and prevention of even breast cancer. Hormones are chemical messengers that work in a lock and key fashion. So there's a little lock on the side of all of our cells, and there's a specific key that unlocks that lock on every cell in our body, and that key is called a hormone. So that's one example of how hormone, one way to picture kind of what does the hormone do inside our body and how does that work. How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel like this or like this? Vitality is probably our main goal in searching this presentation out and having wellness as our priority at our clinic. So we feel that hormones really can attribute to a lot of the symptoms that women go through on a daily basis. And I know that I'll talk about my story in a little bit, but the hormone imbalance can really lead to symptoms of feeling burnt out, feeling like at 3 or 4 p.m. you just hit a wall, you need a third or fourth cup of coffee just to get through the workday and to make it through the evening. And then you kind of don't feel like you can fall asleep properly at night. And you wake up in the middle of the night, the same, kind of time in the morning, you wake up in the middle of the night, not being able to get through, just laying there staring at the wall. People have a lot of tension and irritability complaints when they come to us. Anxiety is a big one. They might even be going to their primary doctor saying, Doc, I've just been feeling lack of focus or anxiety coming over the past few years. Been feeling brain fog. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like I've had the clarity of making decisions. A lot of patients in traditional primary clinics where I used to work would complain of headaches coming more as they were aging, as they were getting closer to menopause. They were dealing with decreased sex drive, just lack of enjoyment or intimacy in their relationships. Also, challenges, of course, with weight gain. And we see that as a continuous challenge in our nation. And there's so many things that aren't taught to us about what we can do about it, or even what might be the underlying cause of it. So I was pretty amazed when I learned about hormones and found out that testosterone is present not only in men, but also in women. And it is one of the most important hormones for so many of the symptoms that we're complaining about on a regular basis as women. It's the most abundant sex hormone in women. That's a fun fact because the lab testing that most doctors do in traditional medical clinics doesn't even include testosterone. It may include estrogen or progesterone if the woman specifically requests it from their doctor, but testosterone is 10 times more abundant in the body than estrogen. And women will lose testosterone production as they age approximately in their 20s to 40s, they can lose 10 to 40 to 50% per year. So it's a very significant drop off, and the production is very, very decreased in our ovaries. The adrenals will probably keep producing for a bit longer, but that's maybe like 10 to 20% of our total production is remaining there in the I'm sorry, in the adrenals. Um, Testosterone has so many positive benefits: increased energy, zest for life, vitality, the mood, like the mood improvement, feeling calm, depression relief, improving cognitive clarity, memory, focus. And then it has a lot of long-term benefits as well. There's been a lot of studies that have been done nationally and internationally, more internationally, I would say, even showing the benefits for long-term health. Even people that are reading the Outlive book by Peter Attia, or who have listened to Peter Attia's podcast, and even David Sinclair about longevity, are trying to stop the main hallmarks of aging and the diseases that are causing us to end our life sooner than we'd like to and make our last years not so high quality. Well, they talk a lot about cardiovascular protection and Alzheimer's. Um, Alzheimer's being one of the biggest things that takes the joy out of our lives as we get to the older decades of our life. And testosterone and hormone balance is something that even Peter Attia talks about in his book, how prevention of Alzheimer's in women can really be done with hormone optimization. So one of the passions that we have at our clinic at Joy Wellness Partners is to help women to find the sources of natural optimization that don't require them to be on prescription medications, if at all possible. So you can read Sex Drive, obviously, is something that increases with testosterone, performance in the gym, performance in work, performance in your family interactions, communication, confidence. They're all benefits of testosterone. And um, estrogen, another hormone that we love to talk about with women, that obviously women know about estrogen, and they often may think of it as the hormone that causes moodiness, or that, maybe not even realize the different effects of estrogen, but it is present in men too. So that's another fun fact. There are over 400 functions of estrogen in the body. So the main ones that we know about are, and that we feel and experience, are hot flash reduction when the estrogen goes low, especially when it like fluctuates from like being there and then going away, and then maybe there's a little production and then it goes away, and then there's a little production and then it goes away during perimenopause. That's what causes the hot flashes and the mood swings as well. So having estrogen be replaced can help to control the hot flashes. Estrogen helps to maintain bone density, to maintain memory, to maintain collagen in your skin, to keep you looking young, and it can help to increase serotonin and dopamine, those happy brain hormones. There are some synthetic estrogen side effects that we like to share with individuals, because a lot of patients think that all hormones are the same, and technically the birth control pills have synthetic estrogen in them, which is a molecule that's not the same exact key to fit in that lock that your cell has in it that's ready to receive it. So when you have something that's not quite the right fit, it's going to signal in the body slightly different effects, and not always the most optimal effects that we're looking for, that we are trying to replace, naturally. So some of the unwanted effects include some risk of heart disease, risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, weight gain, blood clots, moodiness. There's even some concerns and some learning that we discovered that it can affect some of your other hormones and some of the proteins in your body, like the sex hormone binding globulin, which is SHBG. Just a reason I'm mentioning it is because we learned that that can be permanently raised by oral birth control, and then it can be so hard to get your hormones balanced years down the road when you're trying to do it naturally or trying to get off the birth control. So there are definitely ways that we can work with patients who have been on birth control or who are currently on birth control pills, but there's a more natural way in many cases that can help prevent some of these side effects. So what is natural hormone balancing, or what is hormone balancing in general? We really work at Joy Wellness Partners to help the body to return to its normal hormone balance and physiological state that is based on the right kind of hormone, the right amounts, and the right method of delivery of those hormones. So there are different methods of hormone replacement. There are synthetic options, some safer than others, and some bioidentical options, which typically are where we prefer to guide our patients when we're working, especially with women, because those not only is natural and bioidentical our preference in letting your body do the healing work and trying to help your body be like it was when it was youthful, but also because those keys will unlock all the locks in the cells in the most same way as your body used to produce and you're used to function. So we'll talk first about injectable testosterone because that's a really well-known one that a lot of people have heard of. Testosterone replacement therapy, TRT. That's something that was traditionally seen as like a service that was given to men, in the past. And now it is an option for women. Now it is a synthetic hormone. It can have a roller coaster effect. So that means that when you inject, there's a spike of the level of testosterone in the blood, and then slowly it goes down over time. But if we help the patients in our clinic to kind of microdose throughout the week, maybe twice a week injections at preference, there is a way to kind of reach a steady state and reduce the roller coaster effect. There can be variable absorption for individuals. Sometimes they could absorb more during one period of time than another, and also depending on where they inject in their muscle or in their subcutaneous fat. So it's important to do more blood level monitoring. Some people can get some side effects of that roller coaster effect or of producing more red blood cells. But we work with our patients with close blood monitoring to make sure if they do choose this method that they're safe. Bioidentical methods are our preference, like we shared. Pellets are one of the most popular methods at our clinic. And what the heck are pellets? Well, pellets are plant-derived compounds. They're made from yam or soy plants, compacted powder into tiny little, almost rice kernel sized compacted powder little cylinders, super, super small, way smaller than a fingernail, like about the size of a large sushi rice kernel. They're the same molecular structure as produced in your body, and we dose the pellets in small, segments, kind of like little building blocks, and you can put together enough building blocks to make it an individualized dose for any woman. So it can start at 25 milligrams of testosterone, and we can give women like 150, 200 milligrams of testosterone, and that will last them over 3 to 4 months. The dosing is based not only on their weight, but on their activity level, on their sensitivity to medications, and on their experience and their body's tolerance to hormone replacement therapy. We also will tell about pellets that they're a procedure in the clinic where we take the metal device and we insert the pellet under the skin. We, of course, anesthetize or numb the patient beforehand, so it's a painless procedure. Really, most of our women will say that they just had a little bit of soreness for a day or two after the procedure. In most cases, they can get back to their activity level within 3 days and go back to squats and lunges and everything just 3 days after the procedure. And it's performed about 3 to 4 times a year, depending on how quickly the woman will go through that pellet. But usually during those 3 months, it's kind of like set it and forget it. Like you don't have to think about anything. You just take your vitamins to optimize, all your other levels, and the testosterone just kind of releases all day long. It'll kind of release a little bit more testosterone when you're doing cardio workouts or when you're at the gym and you just like kind of need that extra push. Well, it's there for you because it's based on your cardiac output. The absorption and the delivery is based off of every heartbeat. The blood will circulate around to where we normally put the pellets, which is like the butt cheek or the side of your flank or your abdominal tissue, based on patient preference. And then the body will circulate that testosterone around when your heart's beating faster. A little bit more testosterone will get out there. So that's kind of a huge perk, is that you feel like, a little bit more effect when you need it most. And again, most people don't even feel it after those 2 to 3 days, don't even know it's there, and you can keep on going with your life, not have to try to remember something. Cream is another very popular method that we love of hormone replacement therapy, and that is natural as well, made from the same plant compounds, powder made into or diluted into a very soft, thin cream that's, odorless and not sensitive, not like patients don't have reactions, rashes, or anything to it. It can be applied both topically, like to the skin that's usually hairless areas, up in between the legs and the upper thighs, or on the forearms or the upper arms. It's an option for both men and women, but the unique thing about cream for women is that they can put it in intravaginally, and that can provide so many benefits to help the vaginal mucosa, like the skin, and help them to have less dryness, some other perks that because it's applied intravaginally, there's a lot of absorption, and so the levels can get optimized into the bloodstream just as well as pellets or injections. You can put in the cream, you can put progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone in the cream, and even some different like vitamins to help optimize the function of those hormones. Whereas in the pellets, you can only put testosterone or estrogen. So that means that most of our women are taking sublingual or under the tongue progesterone. Because I didn't really talk a ton about progesterone earlier, but basically progesterone is a very essential hormone for women's hormone balance, and it balances the estrogen to help reduce any sort of um, side effects of estrogen dominance. Women will hear about estrogen dominance. You know, you can read tons of blogs and hear podcasts about it. And progesterone is one of the ways to provide you with that nature's Xanax and that calming hormone to help you sleep at night. And progesterone is taken at night if it's sublingual or it's inside the cream and absorbed throughout the day, depending on the patient's preference. It may have variable test results in blood tests. The cream, when patients are on cream, they may see, you know, variable levels in their blood results, but we really focus more on symptoms and how patients are feeling and noticing the changes in their body. So we recommend salivary testing, meaning giving us a sample of your saliva if you're really sure that cream is the method you want to follow, especially in the follow-up labs if you're concerned about is it really making a difference? Then the saliva testing usually detects the cream the best. There are so many benefits of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, BHRT. They are protective to the breasts, against breast cancer. I don't know if you ever thought about it, but breast cancer really upticks in volume and in number in our like 40s, 50-year-old women. And breast cancer, like, yes, there are some younger cases, but most of the cases are during the times when women are depleted of their hormones and the hormones are dropping low. So when patients are optimized on their hormone levels, they have a protection from cancers, not a complete avoidance, but definitely a reduction in their risks. And that's contrary to some studies that came out about 50 years ago, sharing that there were risks of cancer with hormones. We talk about that with our patients because that was a study that was kind of faulty in terms of the dosing that was being used, and it was synthetic estrogen that was being given, and it wasn't being given with testosterone and natural progesterone as a balancer. So when we give patients the cocktail that mimics their body's optimal levels, then they really don't have anything to worry about. And in fact, they are going to prevent any growth or any sort of a development or occurrence of the breast cancer. So bone density. I don't know if I mentioned in the testosterone slide, but testosterone can build back bone density approximately 8% per year. I think we talk about osteoporosis in the next slide. But brain health, testosterone, estrogen is so helpful not only for mood, mental clarity as well, and prevention of chronic diseases that are neurodegenerative because it's anti-inflammatory. Heart health, relationships. We have so many patients telling us that you saved our marriage, or you brought us back to a happy marriage, or we actually, you know, liked sitting close to each other on the couch, and we had a, you know, regular schedule of intimacy again, and it wasn't such a challenge to let him touch me anymore. So it was actually, you know, a really wonderful thing to hear those testimonials. We have convenience with the bioidentical hormone replacement now. Pellets are 4 times a year coming into the clinic, or daily cream where you just let us know when you're running low and we'll help you refill it. There are so many studies, and we work with several companies that are on the cutting edge, anti-aging and functional medicine, AA4M, as well as BioT Medical are some of the forerunners in bioidentical hormone replacement. And our providers are very versed and skilled and constantly learning and going to refresher seminars to learn the most cutting edge research to make sure that we are the safest in every type of situation with every patient possible. And I've seen just so many benefits with patients and feel so trustworthy. compared to, say, working in the ER or working in primary care, where you see a lot of side effects and you see a lot of adverse reactions with prescription medications. There's no increase in blood clots. We talked about the breast cancer risk already. There's actually a help in reducing inflammation with the testosterone and the hormone replacement to reduce inflammation and reduce levels of cholesterol and levels of blood sugar that can help to prevent some of these very concerning circulatory diseases. So osteoporosis, we can show that testosterone is the bone builder hormone. It's 8.3% per year is possible with testosterone pellet replacement therapy. And patches and oral estrogen have been recommended in the past for hormone or for osteoporosis for patients. Get some, even when I went to, I'll tell you a little bit of my story just because it's personal and makes me passionate about why I do what I do. Well, I was 28, 29 years old, and I was paddleboarding out in the ocean, and I tried some judo and jujitsu classes. And during my first judo class, I broke a rib when I, was just learning the first time how to like tumble onto the floor and roll. And, I didn't think much of it, but then I went out paddleboarding in the ocean, and the paddleboard hit my rib on the other side, and I broke another rib. So two within like a summer, I was concerned, and I went and got the DEXA scan, and it showed that I had some levels of osteopenia and some levels of osteoporosis. And I got a further CAT scan, and it showed confirmation of that test. So the QCT scan did show that I had osteopenia and close to osteoporosis on one level on my spine and my hip. So I was very concerned, and I went to an endocrinologist in La Jolla who told me that, all my labs looked totally normal, and all I needed to do was get on some birth control pill and take some calcium, and I should be fine. And I was very kind of like confused by that, because I had also been at that time feeling some increased fatigue and some increased weakness, and wondering, why I wasn't motivated to get up in the morning and do my workouts, and why I was finding it hard to maintain, the muscle mass and the weight that I was used to performing fine as an athlete. So I went to the BioT medical training, and I'll never forget it. It was in 2017. I got my lab results right before going to my first hormone training with that company. And the doctor said, "Look, you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and you have very low testosterone levels. So we need to replace your thyroid levels, and we also need to replace your testosterone level." And it was such an enlightening experience, because the endocrinologist in La Jolla had said your thyroid is fine and your metabolism is fine and normal, and replacing testosterone prevented any future fractures. And I've been able to have, even a normal cycle for fertility. And, it was just such a blessing to learn about this process and be able to get on the right track at such a young age, because I can only imagine so many women are like me but don't learn about this until much later in life. And reading the Outlive book by Peter Attia, you see the studies that people know that have worked in hospitals, that fractures, like 1 in 3 women that have a hip fracture will die within a year if they're having their fracture in their 70s or 80s. So it's very concerning and very worth preventing. And we have such a safe and beneficial answer that not only makes you feel great, but also prevents those fractures and long-term illness. It's something that I get really passionate about. Why not utilize this resource? Alzheimer's disease, women on estrogen and testosterone are 50% less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease from the research studies. And also men have, there's not as many studies in women, but that is one study that showed that, whereas men are 3 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease if they have low testosterone. Arthritis. Oh, I will say too, women, let me go back here. Alzheimer's disease. Say women are concerned about Alzheimer's disease in their family history, or they feel like they're starting to like get forgetful. Well, they won't necessarily have any sort of Alzheimer's disease diagnosis yet when they're coming to us in their 40s. Not to say that they could not be at risk for it, but they will definitely tell me that their mental clarity and their forgetfulness reduced after being on testosterone replacement therapy. So even in their 40s, they're feeling like, hey, this is really good for me and my mental sanity, and I'm sure that I'm preventing future concerns. Arthritis. A lot of people say when they get on the hormone optimized levels, we see that their levels are optimized and balanced, they feel like their joint pain really reduces. And some of the individuals will tell us, I know that I was getting low on my pellets, or I know that my cream dosing wasn't perfect anymore because I started to have joint pain again. And it had been gone for so long after the hormones because so I had stopped thinking about it. So there's definitely an improvement in arthritis reduction because of the inflammation reduction. And also, one of the reasons that I got into hormone optimization was because I was so passionate about regenerative medicine and stimulating cartilage regeneration inside the knee joints using the body's natural healing capabilities, which is one of the big departments in our clinic that many of you probably know. PRP and other natural growth factor therapies can dramatically help to repair and regenerate our joints. And I wanted patients to have the hormones be optimized when they were getting these procedures so they would have the best chance of success. And you can see if testosterone and estrogen are on board, they could potentially prevent the arthritis from even developing, but they can also help the body to heal and prevent the arthritis from worsening or even repair that cartilage. And I've seen it in hundreds of patients at our clinic. Take homes, summaries. I may have gone a little quickly on this presentation, but I just wanted to make sure that you didn't, tune out and let you know that hormone imbalance can occur in many women at any men and women at any age. And it, for me, was like late 20s, but most people, by the time they're in menopause, they've had the decline of hormones and the symptoms are pretty obvious to them that they need to get to a clinic because they need to find out what's possible to be done. I will say that not all therapies are equal, and bioidentical methods seem to be the preferred method, or at least looking at hormones before going to a whole slew of prescription medications is something I would advise to any woman. I kind of touched on this before, but one of the testimonials I heard was of a set of twins who were in their menopausal years, and one twin happened to go to hormone replacement therapy while her sister went to conventional medicine and got up to 64 medications prescribed to her for all her ailments. And when she saw that her sister was not needing all of that, she started to slowly do the bioidentical hormone replacement method, get off all of her prescription medications, and she was able to wean off of that high volume of prescriptions because, like we talked about, there's just usually when you go to one medication, there's a side effect. So you have to take a medication for the side effect. And so this is kind of a way to steer clear of that. Now, we tell our patients too, we would rather you invest in your health proactively. So we do have patients on vitamins. Many of those are pills or capsules to help the hormones to synthesize properly, whether it be detoxification pathways. We get into a lot more detail when you come into the consultation, but normal levels may not be optimal. So even if your doctor, like my doctor told me, your levels are normal, maybe they missed testing some things like the TPO antibodies to detect my Hashimoto's, which we test on every single patient that comes through for a hormone consultation at our clinic. We also test testosterone, B12, vitamin D. We test a lot of levels that answer common problems and common questions that people have, symptoms that people are commonly complaining of. Please find a hormone expert in your area. Joy Wellness Partners is here in Mission Valley and also in Provo, Utah. We're eager to serve you, and happy early Mother's Day. We have a gift to give you 50% off hormone testing for yourself, your mother, your sister, your husband, any individual can get the hormone testing and full consultation 50% off this month of May. We look forward to serving you. I know you can find us at joywellnesspartners.com, as well as, share the newsletter with your friends when the YouTube comes out, to share this recording. If there's something that was helpful that you found, you could share with anyone else.